maybe don't hire the guy with 15 years of experience selling roofing for your roofing business. AltaVista, the highest view in contractor marketing.
If you're not listening to the angle, you will surely fall behind.
Are you going to exist in your space, or are you going to dominate?
Trust the process.
Are you planning for today or adapting for the future?
This is the AltaVista Angle. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the AltaVista Angle, the podcast by AltaVista Strategic Partners. Back today with us, as always, we have Ray McLaughlin and Bryan Dunkel. Special guest today, Jake McLaughlin from the AltaVista sales team. And our topic for the show today is going to be all about really cold calling and hiring cold callers and hiring inside salespeople. So as always, we'll start off with an economic update from Ray. Ray, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I don't have a lot, but I will say a lot of our conversations on the economic update, we've talked about interest rates. That's sort of the driver behind the economy. And you've got to look at interest rates. The 30-year interest rate just crossed 5% for the first time in, I think, 15, 20 years. The 10 years going higher, which means mortgage rates are going higher. If this trend continues, and I think it will continue, just again, I think you yield to a little bit of caution. The economy is generally strong, right? I mean, we're seeing GDP growth. We're seeing contractors are busy. Certainly the residential space is a little challenged. I had a conversation with a resi contractor yesterday who said, while things are okay, they're certainly nowhere where they were 2 years ago. I don't know what changes that, right? Maybe rates coming down, people buying more houses, the housing market loosening up, which isn't happening. But for the time being, keep an eye on the 10-year. The 10-year crosses 5%. I'd yield much more caution. And again, we talk about when to invest in your business, when not to invest in your business. 10-year crosses 5%. Yield to caution, yield to less growth, keeping your business where it is today, keeping margins where they are, and low capital expenditures. That's my opinion. So appreciate it, and let's move forward.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for that as always, right? We'll certainly keep an eye on the interest rate. So why don't we kick it off to Jake? Jake, welcome to the Angle. Why don't you give a quick introduction of yourself, and then we'll start asking you some questions about the inside sales and cold calling.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you guys having me. I'm the sales manager here now. I've been here since July of last year. Started out as an account executive, and now I'm leading the sales team. So
very cool. So cold calling, right? You kind of came in, you came out hot. Why don't you talk to us about cold calling and some of the things that you're doing where you're seeing great success?
Yeah, cold calling has changed a lot with the screening and getting around calls, but I think at the end of the day, just being persistent, how many dials you make a day, what you put in is what you're going to get out.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So how many dials are you making a day right now?
Probably 75 to 80, somewhere in that range.
It's a healthy number.
So Jake, one of the themes of this episode for me is to talk about what makes a new sales guy great. We hear it from our clients all the time. They try to get a salesperson. They want to get someone who's got some experience in the roofing business or in the painting business. I'm not an advocate of that. I mean, it's great when you can get somebody who's got a lot of contacts and a lot of relationships, but AltaVista was built on really new hires, right? Straight out of college. We've had a challenge in hiring salespeople, but you hit your goal, your year-end goal in April, I believe. And, certainly you've blown past a lot of what we've seen and sort of raised the bar internally. What was the biggest thing that drove you to that? Like what drives you to beat a goal that quickly?
Yeah, definitely a great question. I think it really just comes down to trying to be the best at whatever you do. Whether that's anything you do in your life, right? So it comes down to being disciplined. Dunkel actually shared something with me where it's how you do one thing is how you're going to do everything. So I think that's a key factor to finding people that are successful. How do they perform in other aspects of their life, and how much work they're willing to put in, right? Sales is a numbers game, but it's also a skill game. And if you can combine both of them, then you're going to be very successful.
That's a great point.
That's a great point. But let me follow up that question, because it sparks, like, you talked about this discipline, and I know Dunkel has that discipline, always has. But if we're hiring somebody right out of college that has no experience, how do we figure out that discipline? What are some of the things you think we should be looking for when we're interviewing?
Well, this is actually going to go back to you, which is a question that you like, which is, what does every day of your life look like? So if everything's going to be scattered and it's like, well, I wake up at this time, I wake up at that, probably not the right guy at the end of the day. But if someone's disciplined, they're structured, every morning they wake up, they go to the gym, they eat the same, whatever the case can be, I think that's where it starts.
So we have to get fitness buffs that eat healthy and go to the gym every day, like what you say?
We got to check their Chipotle rewards account. That's going to be part of the resume. Show us your Chipotle rewards. How much Chipotle are you eating?
Yeah. Well, let's chat about that, because the infamous question that I asked in an interview for one of our clients was, I asked one of their prospects, what's a day look like in the life of Billy Smith, right? Billy is my guy I'm interviewing. And he said, well, I don't know what you mean by that. Each day is different, he said. And I my jaw hit the table. And he goes, well, what are you struggling with, man? Like, I'm a good guy. I'm a sales guy. And I go, so tell me about, like, what time you get up in the morning? He's like, some days I get up at 7 and some days I get up at 8:30. And I'm like, you get up at 8:30? There's no way we're hiring this guy. I'm sorry. And that, I think, is what Jake is speaking to. People, they get up early, they're go-getters. Either they go to the gym in the morning, or they're meal prepping in the morning. They get to work. If they skip the gym, they go after work. Whatever they do, they're disciplined at what they do. And I think what activities might matter too, because if somebody's really disciplined at handicapping MLB baseball games, that's probably not the productive. No, I'm very serious, because, like, you could be disciplined at the wrong things, right? Is that, you know what I'm saying, Jake? You have friends that aren't successful, right? You have friends that aren't motivated, that might be disciplined in something like, oh, I'm really good at handicapping NFL football games.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
I was thinking about that this morning, that a lot of people actually are disciplined just in the wrong things, and it's not benefiting their life, whether that's something like video games or, going out getting drinks, betting on sports. They are disciplined. It's just not in the right area.
So again, back to my original question, if you're coming in and our clients want to hire Jake McLaughlin or a version of Jake McLaughlin, what types of questions should they ask in the interview to kind of filter through the BS here?
Yeah. I think figuring out really what their habits are at the end of the day, how they handle adversity. I think a lot of stuff is really tough through an interview.
You did ask, I heard you were in an interview, and I think you asked the all-time greatest question. Do you remember what that was?
What are you willing to sacrifice?
Yeah, the question was, or the prospect said they wanted to be successful, and Jake's follow-up was, what do you want to what are you willing to sacrifice? I thought that was the best question I've ever heard in an interview, quite frankly. So I think really getting to the core of what this person is wired from a standpoint of a discipline, but I think there's also a drive aspect. Jake, can you speak more to the drive piece?
Absolutely. With drive, I think it all comes down to discipline, actually, where it's like, hey, if you're motivated to do something and you don't do it, you were never motivated, discipline's going to override. When you make 100 cold calls, for example, not everyone's going to say yes. And you're probably not motivated to come in the next day and pick up the phone. But if you're disciplined and if you make blank amount, success will follow. And I think that's where there's tons of different ways, being competitive, trying to be the best of your version of yourself. But at the end of the day, I really think it comes down to discipline.
You talked about success, though. So success, there's got to be something that drives you, right? So obviously success is a piece of that drive. What does success look like for you? How do you define success?
Success would be me being happy with my performance at the end of the day. When I walk out of the office, I'll usually grade myself 1 to 10. And if I can give a 9 to a 10 every single day, then that's success. And I know that money will follow. I know that my career will develop better.
Yeah. Where did you learn all this? It's really impressive.
I think it's from, I think, personal experiences. At the end of the day, there was times where I feel like I was investing time into the wrong things. And I acknowledged that. And I realized that if I start putting energy into things that will better my life in every way, then I'll be much happier and be successful at the things that matter.
So how good were you at handicapping football games and going out for drinks?
Still pretty good.
Just assuming those are some of those wrong things we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, Jake, obviously, if for the listeners, if you haven't figured out, Jake is my son. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about cold calling and sales. I think we spend a lot of time talking about disciplines, though, where to spend your time. You know, kids that are, betting on football games are probably not going to be the most successful kids. I know everyone's doing it, but Jake has always had a discipline, a significant amount of drive, which I love. And, I think that drive and that competitive nature we haven't really talked about that you have, because there's definitely a competitive nature to this. I'm sure you feel that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I feel like
that.
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe I'm the most competitive person I've ever met. And that carries to every aspect. And if you truly are competitive, it's about trying to win. And that comes with sacrifice. What do I have to do? What do I have to sacrifice to get to my goal? Whether that's in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And just doing that day in and day out. And that's the hard part, which is waking up the next morning and doing it again after you don't have encouragement or motivation, because it's not going to be there every day.
It's really impressive. Good answer. So if you were a new sales guy, what are like the top 3 pieces of advice you'd give them, whether it's a contractor or working for a contractor or work for anybody? What would you like, just your authenticity of these are the 3 things I would do to be successful?
First, I'm going to say people focus on the highs and lows, which is very important. But I think a big thing is making every call the same. So if you have one bad call, just try to tune in on, make sure my tone's good. Make sure that I sound good, and forget about it. Every call is going to be different. Second, I would say dial a phone more. The more volume you have, if you have 2 guys with the same skill set, the guy that calls more is going to win. So that's definitely another big piece to it. And 3, I would say don't get too high, don't get too low. When you have a big month, the next month come in with the same energy and try to do it again. Can't just sit on the pipeline and wait for the deals to close, because you never know if they will.
So what happens when you get frustrated? Because I've seen some frustration.
I had a frustration where I had 0 in my pipeline. The next day I made 140 phone calls. So I think it does vary from what happens, but it just go back to the basics and keep dialing.
How many hours a week do you put in, Jake?
Well, over the winter, I was probably working 65, and that was Friday night. I would stay up till 1 a.m. prospecting, kind of when the regions opened up and we started to target more. So now it's probably around 50, 52.
Okay. So summer Jake works a little less.
Yeah, a little less.
Manasquan Jake works a little less. It's good. Well, that's great. Yeah. And I think you probably work more than 60, 65 in the winter, because, I see him on his computer Sunday night prepping for the day. And we talk about that. That's how winners win, right? The people that come to work. I was at Bryan Dunkel's wife's 40th birthday party over the weekend, and somebody who listens to the podcast and it told me he got gas on Sundays now, which I thought that was really funny, by the way.
Yeah.
But again, it's not about getting gas on Sundays. It's about being ready to work on Monday morning. And what I have instilled in the people that I work with, especially on the sales side, my partners, salespeople, my son, is that the quickest way to wealth is successful selling. And the skills that you learn in successful selling and the attributes that you'll gain will make you a better business person, a better communicator, a better brother, a better friend, a better husband, because you learn the skill of listening and understanding intimate conversations and understanding, if I don't listen in this conversation, how can I solve the problem? And I do think it helps in every facet of life. I think when I was Jake's age, I banged a lot of phones, but I wasn't a great listener. I think the three of you have become really good listeners. And I think Hockel, I think you would even speak to early in your career, listening was probably not your strong suit, right? But it really does boil down to the building blocks of success.
Yeah, I totally agree, right? And it's something that's probably still I work on actively of saying, all right, hey, I need to listen to what they're saying. And I become better about taking notes and remembering things and kind of reading into conversations like, this is important. I need to stop and really focus on what they're saying right here, right? Trying to live by if you're talking, you're not listening.
You're losing.
You're losing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not listening, you're losing. I didn't listen long enough to hear that one the first time.
Somebody great said it, but you weren't really paying too much attention.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That was me.
But sometimes you'll feel yourself talking too much, and I have like a little thing in the back of my brain that goes up that says, all right, I've been talking a lot here. I need to kind of scale it back. Right. So I think that is certainly a skill that's super important on the sales side.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit here because this is a really good one. I said to my son, I think my wife had said, well, what are you doing to my son? He's working his ass off. And, we obviously want our son to be successful. We want him to have fun and do all the great things and be a good person. I said, I'm not doing anything to him. This is all like self-motivation, right? I mean, that's really the fact. And so, I had a conversation with Jake maybe about 2 months ago, and his exact answer was, I'm having more fun than I've ever had. And for a kid that went to University of Alabama for 4 years, I've kind of a hard time believing that. But Jake, was that a true statement?
Back in April, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's changed.
How was July for you?
Not the most fun July.
Not the most fun, but that does speak to your highs and your lows, right?
100%.
Right. But all those commissions you earned in April, you still have. So at least you're still getting paid. And that the July season's slower, right? And that, you got to understand your seasons and the highs and lows that they're going to bring to you.
100%.
Yeah. Dunkel, we haven't heard from you. Any questions from you?
No, I mean, look, I'm never really effusive in praise, but Jake has been just such a rock star. So I sing his praises all the time because and Ray, you and I have talked about this. When I was 23, I wasn't half of where Jake is, right? And I think that goes back to discipline, but I also think, to find someone who's hungry, they have to have discipline and purpose, right? So I think back when I was younger, I didn't really have purpose. I didn't really know, why I wanted to be working hard. And I mentioned this on my wife's birthday, but I met my wife and then that gave me some purpose, right? They gave me purpose to work hard and to be disciplined. So to have that purpose and discipline at such a young age is just wildly impressive. And I think about where Jake could be in 10 years, right? 5 years. And that's really, it's crazy to think about.
I got one on that too, because I'll say something that I hear from a lot of people, right? Whether in our customers, prospects, et cetera, who are like, it's really hard to hire young people because they don't want to work.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. We have almost 70 employees, and I think our under 24, we probably have 50 employees under 24. And I think that's the cohort that our clients are speaking of. But we don't see it here. And again, it's more our culture. We don't really accept that you're going to not work. We believe in work hard, play hard, having fun, building great teams. But I do see it, and I see it in the cohort with Jake's friends and some of his. I think Jake even mentioned some of his college friends are incredibly motivated. And like we talked about that the other day, and he's got some great college buddies that are going to do real well in life. I think there's something in this cohort that the employees are discounting a little bit and thinking that, because there's still drive. People want to be successful. Success is fun. It's you have to understand what success looks like. And if you're not, we had a recent scenario where our COO had talked to a longstanding employee of ours who's done incredibly well, and they're happy. And the comment was, I want you to dream a little. I want you to dream a little. I know you're happy. You've been here 13 years, 12 years. You're doing financially great. You're great in your job, but I want you to dream a little. And you have to dream a little bit. You have to want more. And not want more to be materialistic, but want more to find that success and to really figure out what life can bring you. And without success and money, you're not going to get that. And I'm not a money guy. I'm not money is everything, but I am. Jake said it earlier. Money follows success. And when money follows success and happiness, it's an incredible thing. And then you're able to provide and do the things that you wanted to do in your life. And that's independence and that's power. And so the building blocks of a young sales employee, you don't understand it at 23 probably, but you're building a life for yourself that many won't attain. And it actually gets a little easier. So when you're in sales and you've been doing it for 30 years or 20 years, it gets easier. You're better at it. So you can maybe have some more flexibility to do the things you want to do. And you're going to learn some skills that are going to take you to a new level in your career. My thoughts.
One thing we mentioned earlier was, and Ray, you hit on this, was like so many of our customers, we talked, one of the themes I think for today is how can we help people find and identify and hire these young, hungry salespeople, right? Because there is this perception of young people don't want to work. That's real. People say it all the time, but there clearly are people who are motivated and want to be successful. You kind of keyed on something that I thought was interesting, which was like, maybe don't hire the guy with 15 years of experience selling roofing for your roofing business, right? And I think that's interesting because I never sold marketing. I didn't know anything about property managers or facility managers or roofing or plumbing or marketing when I started working with AltaVista. I know Bryan Dunkel did it. Jake, maybe you knew a little bit about it, but I don't think you really did, right? And I think all three of us are people who have kind of, through motivation, right, learned how to sell a service and become salespeople. And you too, like I can't imagine you were super passionate about Xerox copiers, right? But I think there's something to be said there of like, how do we identify that person? How do we find that, right? Like, because it's not as much I think about, oh, they really know roofing or they really know copiers or they really know marketing. It's really like, who are they as an individual? And I think that's something that's really interesting that I kind of picked up on, you said earlier in the episode.
Well, it's funny you say that because when we were at the Oriole game a couple nights ago, there was a billboard of a company that I actually sold a copier to when I was 21 years old. I am 56, by the way. I told Nichols that. He thought it was funny. But I think that's a great point. There's not, like, people think like, well, I want to be in let's call it a sexy business. I can tell you right now, there's no such thing as a sexy business. Business is business. I just had a dinner last night with a guy who sells security software. And I told him his job was easy relative to running a contracting business, because the other guy was running a contracting business. He came out of his chair to tell me, you have no idea how hard it is to sell to corporate buyers. I'm like, no, I actually do. But there is no sexy business. Business is business, right? The product might have a little bit more appeal, but it's not, the passion is not in the product. It's in helping the customer accomplish their goals and win, and then you to be successful. Right? If I said to somebody the other day, whatever we do next, we're going to launch a new service line, it has to work. right? So if the product doesn't work, then that's a huge problem. And by the way, Xerox copiers didn't work. They were trash. Sorry if you're listening, Xerox. Your stock is trading at $2. I could have told you, I could have told you were going out of business because the products were that bad. So the product has to work. It has to help the customer. But when you get a win on the sales side, and then you get a customer win where your customer, what you're doing is providing a success for your client, then there's a lot of energy that comes from that. That's what we're here to do, is make our clients win. We could sell anything, but if it doesn't work, that's not productive. So
yeah,
I
think that's a good point.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I think what makes a good salesperson or someone who's hungry are people that enjoy solving problems, right? And that's someone who, can help a customer make a good decision. So I think that you hit the nail on the head there. The other thing I was going to say with Aaron is, it's funny, I'll never forget one of the first meetings I was ever on. It was 2015. I was down in Houston with a roofing company, and he said the same thing. He's like, I don't hire people, who have any roof experience or came from another roofing company who know how to sell roofs. I hire people who have natural ability, and I teach them how to sell a roof through my process, right? And that all goes back to kind of what we're talking about, is you're just looking for natural ability, natural discipline, natural motivation, someone who wants to win, someone who's ultra competitive, and then let's teach them how to sell whatever it is, whether it's AltaVista marketing services, whether it's roofing services, whether it's Xerox copiers, right? So it's something that, I think is, it's something that's really interesting. I don't think a lot of people would think that way.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. Really is. One of the things we talked about the other day, we talk about the word killer. Is this employee a killer? And you don't need to be a sales guy to be a killer. You can be an operational killer. We've used the word assassin. That's probably a terrible choice of words, but look, is this person a killer? And our COO, Kendall Mason, is a killer. I mean, she's committed to the call. She's doing whatever it takes to get it done. She's not on the sales side, right? But her personality is no quit. It's just no quit. And to Jake's point, she was a goalie on a lacrosse team and played Division I. So if you know anything about lacrosse, the goalie is probably the toughest position on the field because nobody cares, right? You can only make a mistake. A save is expected. A goal that goes through, you cost us the game. So you must be tenacious. You must have no ego. You have to be an ultimate team player. So talk about hiring somebody who's a no quit, a Division I lacrosse goalie. Let's just use that as a disciplined individual. I think that kind of speaks to what Jake was talking about. Kendall had no work experience, but we saw that in Kendall early on. On the sales side, Jake's a killer. End of story. I've been doing this for 35 years. Dunkel was as good as I had ever seen. I was pretty good myself. Hockel was a beast when we hired him. Jake, you're way beyond all three of us at the age that you're at. And that's what's still impressive. And so I think there's a lot of innate abilities that you bring. There's some training, obviously, that you've gotten. And then you're also in a good role with the ability to scale. Because the other thing that Jake has is that nothing's bogging Jake down except this podcast, which infuriates him so he can't cold call, or going to an Orioles game so he can't prep, for the next day or go to the gym. And that these are true stories, guys. Like he's frustrated. He wants to get back on the phones. Is that a fair statement, Jake?
100%.
Yeah. So he's in a position where he's not getting bogged down by scheduling. He's not getting bogged down by some customer issue. He's on the phones, back at phones. That's what he loves to do. But where I was going to transition the conversation is, can you teach someone to be a killer? And it's a trick question, but I'm going to ask the three of you. And if you're a listener right now, answer that question in your head. Can you teach someone to be a killer? Yes or no? Jake?
You can't teach, but if you have a good environment, you can create.
Okay. Dunkel.
I like that answer, Jake.
That was
a great answer. I would say no. I would say no.
I'd say no. You either want it or you don't, right? Like,
Okay.
I don't know. You can maybe find some motivation somewhere along the way, or maybe like to Dunkel's point, you find a girl and you want to start a family and you get a little more motivation. But I think there's just inside some people, I'm going to go get after it. Right. And like, I'm going to be unstoppable. And like that, you can't teach that at some level.
Well, I think my answer would have been no. And I know this person won't mind me sharing this because we had this conversation about a week ago. How about Ben Hollingsworth?
Yeah,
Ben Hollingsworth
point.
did not come. Ben Hollingsworth did not come to AltaVista a killer. He agreed. He did not. He was a good employee, focused, good listener, hard worker. He's a stone cold killer now. So
it took a couple kicks in the ass, though.
That's right.
Motivational speeches from Ray.
Yeah. It took the worst good cop, bad cop we've ever done on an employee or a human being in my life. But he did wake up, and he's happier than he's ever been. I had dinner with him not too long ago. I mean, he just got promoted to VP of the Southeast for AltaVista. He's going to, be, in a leadership role in our company, and he's still killing it at everything he does. So I do believe you can train a killer in sales. I know it's harder than I'd rather get someone who has got the natural attributes. But one of the challenges with like a Jake is how do you keep a Jake McLaughlin? Because let's say I'm a version of Jake McLaughlin. When I was 23 years old, don't hold me back. Don't hold me back or I'm leaving. That's why I left Xerox. It was a 3.5-hour resignation. I've talked about my previous boss. I loved him, still love him today. But they were holding me back. And then I went to a mortgage company that didn't hold me back. Could have made millions of dollars. But then the bond market crashed in 1994 and the environment changed. So I was looking for something unlimited. And Jake, I think you've spoken to like, don't hold you back, right? Unlimited compensation.
Yeah.
That's important.
On that one, I think too that, the don't hold me back, the don't weigh me down, like Bryan Dunkel came to AltaVista because he was getting limited on his compensation. They were holding him back. Thank you, Baseball Factory, for jacking up his comp plan 11 years ago and him being like, I'm out the door, guys, because you're holding me back. Like, I want to make X. I'm willing to sell this to earn that. If you don't want to do it, I'm out. Right. So
I want to take a moment to thank Baseball Factory in case
I am too.
Because I've never thanked them. Thank you, Baseball Factory, because Bryan Dunkel came in, he was a killer and became a partner. And if you don't know the dynamics of Aaron and Bryan, they were killer sales guys. And, I, as a business person, was challenged, how do I keep these guys? So we issued equity to them, and they're partners in the business today. And that is a big question. How do you keep and retain that talent? And our salespeople are equity holders too. We grant stock to our killers. We do. If you're successful and you're hitting goals, we're going to grant you shares in a company.
Yeah. One thing I would think on that one too is like to people who are motivated by success, right? And we do talk internally that success and money follow, but a lot of salespeople are money motivated. That's real. That's a real acknowledgement. I think if you're talking about, hey, I have a great salesperson, how do I retain them? How often are people who are in charge saying, hey, what kind of compensation do you want to earn? Where do you want to be? Right? Like, I think that's something that we do with our employees, right? But I don't think a lot of businesses necessarily go and say like, hey, where do you want to be? How do you want to get there? Right? Ray knows how much money I wanted to make when he asked me that question a long time ago, before a wife and 3 kids.
Exactly.
The number changes, but I think it's a real thing of like to a motivated salesperson of asking them where they want to be, how do we get them there, and understanding kind of their goals is a key part of retention, right? Rather than just assuming or giving a plan. I don't know.
It is a tough question though for someone coming out of college, right? Because if someone coming out of college and you're interviewing them, you say, hey, I want to make $100,000 a year, which is kind of believe it or not, that was the number I used back in 91. And I still kind of hear that number. And it's a big round number, 6 figures, right? Yeah, that's a great goal. But if a sales guy said to me, Ray, I want to make $1 million a year, that's it. And I'm willing to put the work in to get there. I love that. That's a big goal, right? But someone said to me one day, "Oh, I want to make enough money so I can join a country club and play golf at 2:00." I don't want to hire that person, and that's a true story. So, I got to get to 150 grand or 200 grand, and then I can go, take off and play golf. I don't want that person on my payroll. I don't. And, if you're successful at 40 and you want to go out and play golf at 2:00, that's fine. But when you're 23 years old, if you're thinking about that, you're thinking about the wrong things.
Well, that's the thing about success, and that's the thing about sales, which I think sales is the greatest profession because it's you, right? You put in the hours, you put in the time. And if you're in a company, whether it's AltaVista or something, could be the mortgage business, but if there's unlimited green pastures, right? And you can put in the time and energy and you can see the fruits of your labor, you're only going to want to work harder. And that's why it's, such a great job and profession. But again, some people don't get there because, success breeds success. Some people, it's like running a mile, right? You run a mile, you're tired, right? The people that go the extra, I'm going to go one more. I'm going to keep going. It's the same kind of attribute where, maybe I made 10 calls today. I got 10 rejections. Well, make 10 more, make 100 more. The more you put in, the more you get out, as Jake said, right? As we always say here. So, I don't know. I just think there's so much we can do, like, as salespeople, right, to help these organizations and just keep it moving.
Yeah, Jake, thoughts there?
Kind of just exactly what Bryan said. Couldn't agree more.
So really, if our clients want to hire Jake McLaughlin, and he's got, just FYI, a massive non-compete, he's got shares in the company. He's got, he's my son. So don't try to hire him. I'm sure people will. We'd like to figure out how to utilize Jake to breed the next generation AltaVista, which he is doing. That's why he's been promoted, because he's going to set the bar for the next 3 hires. But as far as hiring, what are some of the high level things that our clients can take away to say, hey, I want to believe in what AltaVista just told me. I want to hire someone young to come into my business and be a killer. And what can you do, right? What are some other thoughts that our clients can do to make that happen? Obviously, they have to recruit. They have to be at college trade fairs or job fairs rather, and have a presence, and because that helps. I mean, we're at every job fair at every local university in Tampa and in Baltimore.
I mean, I got one out the gate that I'll give. I feel like when we were early on in AltaVista, ironically, none of us are, but we hired a lot of Division I athletes and a lot of former athletes, college athletes, people who maybe played at a high level in high school, different things. And I feel that former athletes have, whether they're on the operations side or the sales side or wherever, they know how to work as a team. They have a lot of attributes in training and a lot of things that I think lead to being successful in life, that someone who just went to high school, went to college, got a degree, you know what I mean, and kind of moved through, may not have some of that same sense. That's one thing I've always said that we've done.
So Jake is getting pissed right now, by the way. So he's like, what are you talking about?
I'm just saying that's something that I've always
I
seen,
agree.
right?
I agree. There's certainly a discipline there.
Yeah, I would piggyback off that. It's like, I'm always looking for someone who hates to lose. If you hate losing more than you like winning, you're going to be successful. And that goes back to being competitive, right? I mean, that's another thing too. I didn't play Division I sports, but I'm also competitive, right? I want to win, but I want to win for myself. So for me, I'm always competing against me. I'm competing against the version of myself yesterday. And that's kind of, I think, what Jake does when he's leaving every day and grading himself. Did I do better than I did yesterday? And if not, let me do better tomorrow. And so I think, someone who hates losing, someone who's ultra competitive, I mean, you're going to get a killer at that point.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the elephant in the room. And I've never said it publicly. I've never said it on the podcast, but I'll say it. You're not going to beat me. Sorry. Like, I'm not letting you win. And I don't want to compete with Dunkel and Hockel and Jake. But if Jake's in there kicking my ass, I'm going to beat him at some point. And then he's probably going to come back and beat me at some point. That's politics. That's the structure. I'm not saying I'm the best salesperson, but if you put me in a room with 10 people and Joey Smith is kicking my ass, I'm not letting that happen. And it's not in aerospace engineering, which I suck at. It's not in macroeconomics, which I probably suck at. Like, it's not in accounting, where all these people were kicking my ass at University of Maryland College Park, and that's great. We'll pull out our tax returns. That's fine. I'd love to do it, and we can have some fucking fun. So I'm serious, because you're going to go sell copiers for Xerox. Oh, that's a great career. You know, I'm selling toner. I had toner cartridges in my trunk. You know, so yeah. Oh yeah. You're working for PwC and you're working for Deloitte and you're going to go to Harvard. I mean, one of my roommates went to Wharton and it's with an MBA and he's a hedge fund manager. Let's get our W-2s out. I'm serious. Go sell, get hungry. Don't like to lose. Go get it. It's there. The world is out there. It's only getting better, because the ability for people to sell today, I think, is even worse than it was. And when I got to college, my friends were stone cold killers. We were so hungry. It was the 80s. It was greed. It was the movie Wall Street. Greed is good. We were like, greed is good. Let's go get after it. And it has changed. So there's less hunger out there today. So I think therein lies more opportunity, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Jake, give us a couple thoughts here. Give us a couple final thoughts, comments.
Yes, so you can get back on the phone.
How do we hire a killer? Yeah.
Yeah. I think the best way is, of course, finding people that are competitive. I think for people out there, like, the world really is a competition, and there's people living a life that you want to live. And if that doesn't piss you off, then you probably shouldn't go into sales, and you're probably not going to be successful. But if you can understand that if I do this and I work this hard, I'm going to get everything I want out of life, and you truly believe that, I think that's what makes you successful.
So basically, this doesn't stop for you?
No.
So how many yachts can you actually water ski behind, Jake?
Can you water ski? Do you even know how to water ski? Let's start with a more basic.
Yeah, that's a quote. That's a quote from Gordon Gekko in Wall Street.
Oh, I never.
You didn't know that one?
Oh,
come on. But that's what they asked Gordon Gekko. How much is enough? And he was quoted as saying, "Greed is good." And I don't think that's what Jake is saying. Jake is saying he wants to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. It's not about just money. It's about life. You know. The E-Myth I've referenced, he talks about getting yourself more life. And if that means you want a yacht, or it means you want a Ferrari, or you want some tangible thing and you really want it, it's something you really want, I would challenge you to say that, okay, that's a want, that's not a goal. But hey, if you want a Ferrari, you better go make a lot of money so you can buy a Ferrari. And when you buy that Ferrari, do you love that Ferrari? And is it fitting into what your lifestyle is? And did it meet your expectations? But those are material things. I think for me, success is more about just success. I like what I do. I'm happy. I make enough money to support my lifestyle, the things I want to do, the things my family wants to do. And, I don't want to miss football games and baseball games for my son. And I don't want to miss events for my employees. And I want to be there in my friends' lives so I can be a good person. It's not a total sacrifice. It's just a piece of the puzzle. And it breeds success in every facet of your life, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
Definitely.
%. Yeah. And I think
I do like to play golf at 2:00, but I'm allowed because I'm 55 and I am playing golf today. So keep going.
No, I was going to say, I kind of piggybacking, right? People define success however they want, right? For me, it's fulfillment, right? And I think it's kind of the things you're talking about, but it's also waking up in the morning and being excited to get to work. excited to get in front of the laptop, excited to pick up the phone, excited to solve another problem, excited to close another deal, add to the reoccurring revenue, all of that, right? And to your point, it kind of starts there and then it flows downhill. It's going to impact every other piece of your life. Because again, the people that work hard, the people that are successful, they're also great dads, right? Or great wives. They're also great friends. They're also, working out or disciplined with money. It kind of feeds every aspect. Which again, like if you can find those people, you're going to hit a home run. You're going to have A players.
That's a really good point, actually. You don't typically see a successful person who's, trying to borrow money from their friends and, doing stupid things that are causing havoc in their lives on, say, Monday, right? It does. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, that's super well said.
Yeah.
We can close it there unless anybody has any final big words of wisdom for the audience.
Jake, let's say you're again, you can say one thing to the new sales rep at AltaVista, and then you're going to go away. You're going to say one thing to that new sales rep. What's it going to be?
Don't quit.
I like it.
I like that.
That's a good one. Absolutely.
Good stuff. Jake,
All right.
Great job. Congrats on all the success. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good job, Jake.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. As always, Jake, thanks for being our special guest. Thank you to the audience for listening. That's it for this episode of the AltaVista Angle. Please find us wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, download, leave us a good review. We will be back soon on a future episode. Thank you.
Get gas on Sundays.